Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Question Time with myself, Harry Knight. Once again, I'm going to be going through some of your comments on social media and doing my best to answer your questions. First up, actually, this episode, I've got a little correction that I need to address. So an episode or two ago, I was talking about how some surfboards are designed to be a little shorter to help them fit into a steeper curve on the wave face. And I referenced Kelly Slater riding a wizard sleeve model at Pipeline. And Stephen Wouw pulled me up and reminded me that that was the Deep 6 model surfboard that he rode at Pipeline. The wizard sleeve was a similar design. It was shorter, wider board. Kelly rode it most famously, I think, at P-Pass in Micronesia. So yes, my apologies. Two surfboards designed around the same time for similar sort of purposes. But yeah, the idea remains true. And thank you, Stephen, for keeping me honest. And if anybody else has any corrections or thoughts on stuff that we've spoken about in these episodes, then please throw it in down below. It's great to have these conversations. So first question this episode comes from Oleg, who was asking, when you look at a forecast, what is Swell 2 and Swell 3 on the forecast chart? And this is a good question. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this. If you look at a surf forecast, what you'll normally have is a couple of columns. Will normally have the prediction of what the actual breaking waves are going to look like on the beach, and then we'll normally have the swell, swell height, swell period, swell direction that we've been talking about actually the last couple of episodes of the Surfing Explained, the animations that Will's been making. We've been talking about surf forecasting models like that. Now, generally what you'll see is those numbers for the primary swell. And then on most forecast models, sometimes you have to click on advanced options in order to see this, but there will be a secondary swell and a tertiary swell, and sometimes even more than that. What it basically is when we talk theoretically about surf forecasting, what everybody generally does is imagines a perfect environment where the entire Pacific Ocean or Atlantic Ocean goes completely flat and there is one storm creating wind and waves in the ocean. So, the reality is that never happens. There will be waves left over from last week's storm. There may be two storms in the ocean at the same time, one in the further north and one further south. So there will always be multiple different swells coming from different directions, impacting our beach at any one time. And so that's what these other secondary, tertiary, and on swells are. The reason why they're important, well, there's a couple of interesting observations actually. The first one is that of all these swells impacting the beach, the computer algorithm decides which one is going to be the most impactful, the one that's going to be the primary swell that you actually see with your eyes when you arrive at the beach. Now, if the different swells are very similar to each other, if we've got different swells arriving at the beach, but actually they're quite close in terms of power and strength and size, the computer algorithm sometimes isn't sure which one to call the primary swell, and you can sometimes see when you look down that it's actually flip-flopping between the primary and secondary swells, and it's sort of swapping them over as to which is which, because it as far as it's concerned, they're going to be very, very similar. The other reason it's worth looking is if you have that situation where you've got two swells that are kind of similar in power, there's a chance that the waves on the beach might be a little bit disorganized. It can be a great thing. Sometimes you have a swell coming out the north and one out the south of similar size. It can make these real great peaky little waves. But on other occasions where you have multiple swells of similar sizes, it can make the ocean a bit disorganized. Now, the alternative is if you have one swell that is just very clearly much, much bigger and more powerful than all the others, then we're more likely to turn up at the beach and see, nice, neat, straight lines of swell arriving on the beach. So yeah, it's always worth checking those secondary, tertiary swells and what else is going on in the ocean besides that primary wave train that's arriving at the beach. Cool. Next question, it comes from various people. There have been a few comments, POV Surf Raw, David Schindewolf, both wrote in previous videos, but I get emails quite regularly asking variations on what board should person X ride, what board should person Y ride, what's the correct board for this condition or that condition. And it's really hard for me to give good answers to this question, which is why I thought it'd be good for us to have a little chat about it now. There are two main problems. The first one is that it's very hard to prescribe a specific board for somebody when you haven't seen them surf. If you don't know how they're using their body and what their limiting factors are, it's very hard to know what is and isn't working with their current board and what changes might assist them with their surfing. Now, we do actually offer video feedback coaching. If you guys want to send footage to us, we'll look over it. We'll put a little project together. We'll jump on a video call and we can talk all about what's going on with the surfing and what boards might be relevant. So I'll put some links down to our online coaching if you guys are interested in that side of things. The second problem is that surfboards are very, very subjective. What feels good to me, you may not enjoy. And equally, your favorite board, if I get on it, I might just, the sensations coming through my feet might not be what I love in a surfboard. So the solution to this, the thing I tell everybody to do, regardless of, if you're a level 1 that's just starting out or, you're a pretty experienced level 4 surfer, try to ride lots of boards. Try to get your hands on them. If you go on vacation somewhere, rent a board. And most rental shops I know, they don't mind if you, go back in at lunchtime and swap the board over. So you've got a different board for the afternoon surf. Borrow boards from friends. If you're lucky, if you're living in Europe or the United States or somewhere where there are demo days, you can turn up, leave a credit card and driver's license. You can just borrow some different boards to try out. All of these things are really, really, really worth doing because once you've surfed a few different boards, you'll start to get a feel for what it is that you like and what it is that you don't. Now, obviously, you need to be observant about the boards. Does that board have more rocker or less rocker than the others? Is it wider? Is it narrow? Be observant of the boards. But when you find one that you really like, take note of what that board is, of how it feels, of what it is that you like about it. Now, neither of those are particularly, specific advice. It's very general. So the only really specific advice that I can give to people is using the tree of knowledge that we have here. For those of you guys that are new to us, we've kind of tried to break down surfing into all its different component skills. I'll put a high resolution. We have a link to a high res version of this on our website. So if you want to have a look at all these boxes, but level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, as we call it. We also have an interactive volume to weight chart where we've tried to link our recommendations for, roughly what size board is recommended for each level for a specific weight. That's about the most specific advice I can give. So as an example, if you're a level 1 surfer, which is where we're talking about, being in the whitewater, learning to stand up on the board, starting to do some little gentle turns in the whitewater, we suggest that the volume of your surfboard in liters should be about the same as your weight in kilograms. So I'm about 85 kilos, depending on the day. I should be riding a board that is no smaller than 85 liters, because any smaller than that, I'm probably not going to get the stability out of it that I might want. Now, as we push through, we get to level 3, say, level 3 is where we're starting to think about performing horizontal turns, but turns, cutbacks, little re-entries, things like that on the wave face. We don't recommend dropping below about 50% ratio, so around a 40-liter surfboard for me. And the reason basically is all the way through level 1, level 2, level 3, honestly, almost any surfboard would work. The only thing that really matters at this point is that you're keeping your wave count up. Okay, the more waves you're catching, the more opportunities you're getting to try these skills, and the quicker you're going to advance through them. The most common error that we see is people just dropping down the size of their surfboard a little bit too quick in a quest for more maneuverability. Once we get to level 4, once you can link, nice clean cutbacks, rebounding off the white water, once you can come off the bottom and come up and hit breaking lips and little re-entries and floaters, you can pump and generate your own speed. We're starting to think about level 4, and that's where we're specializing into, longboarding, nose riding skills, or vertical top to bottom surfing, maybe aerials, maybe barrels. That's a time when the specifics of the surfboard are probably going to be a little bit more important. But there are exceptions to this rule that I've just said. Maybe a really, really flat nose riding longboard. It's going to have lots and lots of volume, but it's also going to be really easy to catch that rail when you're trying to turn. A step up big wave board with a narrow pulled in pointy tail probably isn't going to be very forgiving when you're trying to learn to do turns on softer, weaker waves. But most boards that we're going to come across day to day are going to work just fine for level 1, 2, and 3. So it's more about finding a board that just feels good to you and doesn't impact your wave count too much. If it does those two things, I would stick with it. As we push into level 4, that's the time to start thinking about getting really, really specific with the board that we're riding. But also by this point, hopefully we've got a few hundred hours of surfing under our belt. Most people will have at least, and hopefully we've tried quite a few different surfboards, and we've started to narrow down what it is we like and don't like about a board. So anyway, I hope that's interesting. I realize that it's not as specific as some of you were probably hoping the answer to this question would be. But like I say, it's a question I get asked a lot, and that's about as specific an answer as I can give. And hey, look, on the plus side, it's a really great excuse to go out and experiment and play with different surfboards, which is great fun. So yeah, I hope that was interesting, guys. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please send me your questions, send me your comments, because that's what keeps this show going. Without it, I have nothing to talk about. For now, from me, goodbye, and I'll see you next week. Take care.